we're going to get started with introductions. I will start us off and just share. We're going to do kind of popcorn style. So as I share something exciting or a win that's happened since last time we've been on, then you'll popcorn it over to the next person to do the same. And we'll do that until we go through each other, and then we'll go into events from there, what events are happening. So let's see. I had a couple just kind of on my mind as far as wins and things, but I'm just going to share a very light one today because I'm tired, and it's just one of those days where I'm going to keep it light. It was Thanksgiving last week, and I think it was great that I didn't actually have to be here. Ray was here, and he hosted, so that was a great win for me and for this think tank to be able to exist without having me here and having a really strong co-host. And I'm really thankful for Ray and all that he does, and for showing up and being my brother from another mother on the other side of the world. So thank you, Ray. I'm going to pass it over to you, bud.
Excellent, thank you. So yeah, no, it was really good. I enjoyed it. I was able to pretend to be Josh for a day. I don't know if you've seen the replay, but we had some good chats. And we tried to keep it off the topic of blockchain for once. So that was fun too. So I'm Regen Ray from Farming Secrets. We run an online education learning center called the Soil Learning Center. And yeah, for us, it's just been really a good couple of weeks. We're starting to build out some extra functionality, and we've gone a little bit more serious by making our project have a staging server. So we're implementing some new features, and we'll see how those roll out over the next couple of weeks. So I've also been really deep in the trenches with blockchain, and I'm really excited about a lot of the projects that are happening around the NFT space and using the movement of taking things off the old way of doing business in Web 2 and moving them into Web 3. And so a lot of good conversations with potentially issuing certificates of completion of courses through blockchain for proof of attendance and things like that. So lots of good conversations and getting closer to dropping an NFT project as well to raise money for a charity. So lots of good wins in my world this week. And if you don't know what popcorning is, we hand it over to someone else. So I'm going to popcorn it to Daniel.
Okay, so my name is Dan Polga. This is my first time here. I received an email, and I don't know if it's related to GRC or something I was signed up with in the past, but nevertheless, I signed up because I do have a friend that's interested in permaculture, and I thought, once I attend this and see if it's fit, at least for him, I have future, I guess, thoughts about, acquiring some land and living off the land as well, on a farm. And currently I live in the mountains in Northern California. We have chickens and we have ducks and fish and birds, but that's about the extent of it, right? And we have a small raised planters in our yard that my wife started doing. I built for her, and hopefully we can expand that further and live more and more off the land. That's the end goal here. A good thing, I guess, that happened is I guess it's in the spirit of being in tune with nature. Is I ordered a first synthetic Christmas tree. I never thought I'd do that, but every year we would have a family tradition. We would go up in the mountains and cut down a Christmas tree, and I felt guilty every year, even though we enjoyed it with our family. So this year I actually ordered a 12-foot Christmas tree that's got metal and all synthetic branches and acorns, and that are actually the acorns are real, and some berries, and it's pre-lit with LEDs, and it was 12 foot. Our ceilings are 10 foot, so I had to modify it. It took me about 3 hours to get all the electronics right and everything, but eventually it went up. So now we have a synthetic Christmas tree, and we don't have to cut down trees any longer, you know. So it just seems like everything is going towards the I would say towards the virtual reality and MR and XR, and everything's going into the synthetic world. So my goal is to go back to the natural world as much as possible and hang out there, as opposed to the, you know, create some balance with the online world, right? I've been my entire past year, I've been stuck online 19 hours a day, and I just finally pulled the plug about 2 weeks ago, where you know, I just go back to my original old email. I was on all platforms for about a year, and then finally just stopped. And it's crazy to get out of the matrix, but I was able to do it successfully, and it was a wild ride. So that's what I'm thankful for, to be out of it and back with myself and nature. It's been a wild year.
That's
I'll
wonderful.
pass it on to Russell, I guess.
Hey guys, good evening from Colombia. Nice to meet some of you for the first time, and good to be back with those of you that I'm familiar with. So this week I'm on an off-grid farm here in Colombia. I teach permaculture here, and I'm also an online course creator. And I had a couple of wins this week. One was that we've suddenly got a lot of people at the farm. Suddenly a lot of people are traveling, and we've got quite a decent group. So we're getting quite a lot of work done on the farm, and also, you know, able to teach those good people who come here some nice concepts that they can take back wherever they go afterwards. And another win I had with Regenpreneur. He's got a platform, and I have my course on his platform. So we made our first sale this week, which is a direct result of being on this, you know, this mastermind. So, you know, it's always good to network. So, you know, awesome that we've managed to do that, and we're gonna keep going stronger and stronger. So yeah, I'm going to popcorn over to Michelle.
I think I missed the, it sounds like a win was one of them, but was there something else I was supposed to add to that?
No, just share a win or something you're excited about from the last time you came to now.
Oh, it's been a little bit, sadly. I've been kind of busy. Well, actually, I don't know if it's a part of this group, but in, you know, a bunch of these random calls, I've actually partnered with Joe Mann. I think some of you may have met her at some point. And she just got added as national faculty for the management assistance team of the Association of Fish and Wildlife Agencies. So I got some diversity into our national faculty, which is pretty exciting. And then let's see, a win. Well, actually, I'm working on my end of year review, and I had a lot more wins than I thought, and actually learned a lot this year. So I'm really excited about that. At the same time, working in diversity and inclusion is exhausting, and at times the system has definitely urged me to drop out. So my energy is up and down often. So I'll popcorn over to, or was I the last one? I came on late, I'm sorry.
We have Eck and Jean.
Eck, I was gonna throw it to Eck, okay.
Yeah, Eckhart, actually, I was just in a hurry, typing in furiously at the end, finishing line. Eckhart here. I'm kind of all over the place, but my passion and my kind of gravitational center or pull is towards regeneration. What pains me, and I can talk about it during the breakouts, is the dollars and cents, the bottom line. Unfortunately, that's for better, for worse, that's to be sustainable, I need to be sustainable, is to get back to it, is the passion of the fire that burns is creating these structures. And the one in mind that we have that's most visually manifestable, I'll leave you a copy of it in the chat, but basically it came out of this crazy idea to get into design competition, and we had no illusions of, because hundreds of people applied, and I created this team and we did quite well. And so we have to figure out how to manifest that vision, where the money is going to come from. That's not there for us. And then putting it into our crazy busy schedules that we have ourselves. I called it the fly line. I created the team, and we placed 15 out of hundreds. So we get to build it somehow next year. And to give you an idea, I'm just sharing the links right there. And I guess one that got cut off. But basically what it is that they have 5 years ago, Burning Man Foundation bought, I think, 2,000 or 3,000 acres up near where they have their event. And it's all high desert, apparently, but they have almost unlimited water. Go figure, not just wet, fresh water, spring water, but also geothermal activity. I've never even been there. So it's really exciting, but in the end, manifesting this vision is still very much a mystery. Even the powers that be haven't, to our satisfaction, fully explained how this is all going to come to be. I think it's part of the mystery of this journey. But it's been a great opportunity. We also, to be specific, we are a solar innovation that will be powering this microgrid, which resides inside of Fibonacci sequence, which in turn informs the boardwalk that could be sensitively lead the visitors through this journey. Around this, it got cut off, so let me add it again. It's it's a version of, believe it or not, of Old Faithful there, which I've never been to. It's really cool. Let me write Fly Ranch. Yeah, here it is. I see what happened. I'm going to cut it and paste it again. So it's a geyser that actually was man-made. This is crazy, but kind of based on a true story. In the early century, some entrepreneurs were going to see, well, what if we could take this thing and this geyser and build and from the natural energy that's in there, the heat, maybe we could use it. But it turns out it's like 1 degree colder than they needed to be. So they left it. And there's a chain reaction, and it just kept on going and going and getting bigger. And every year it gets like an inch bigger. It's this, I don't know if the link is working now. It doesn't seem to be, but it's spectacular. The flyover of Burning Man Foundation of this Fly Ranch. I'm sorry. So anyway, convoluted, but it takes a lot of my time, and I got to figure out how to hold it in check. But it interties with just about everything we've spoken of so far. And I will pass. And I guess at this point, I'll try one more time to add the link. And I've got to pick someone who hasn't spoken. Hi, Cody. I just connected with Cody, and he was on a presentation a couple of days ago, and just connected via LinkedIn about an hour ago.
Hey, Cody.
Yeah, sorry I'm late. I was having, I tried to join a little bit before the top of the hour, and then wouldn't let me in, and then had something come up, and yeah.
Oh, no worries, no worries. So Cody, we're just doing kind of introductions, and Jean and yourself are the last two to go. So if you want to just share something that you are excited about, or a win that you've had in your regenerative entrepreneurship journey in the last, week or so.
Okay, last week or so. Let's see. I don't know. I think I'm having some progress. I'm working on this ecosystem services legislation, and I've got a few interns that are working on it this year. And yeah, I think they're making solid progress on it. So we didn't have a distinct necessarily win in the last week, but I'm feeling good about how it's progressing. So yeah, I think that's worth sharing. And yeah, I can give a general background of myself, or I mean, I don't need to say much. I don't know. I do a lot of different stuff related to regenerative space.
Yeah, please share, Cody.
I own a small company that I work through, just a little LLC, and do a lot of project management work for environmental, social impact kind of stuff. Involved with a cattle ranching venture, regenerative cattle ranching venture in San Diego. We're on about 16,000 acres, rotationally grazing the animals, and hopefully doing a bunch of ecosystem restoration alongside the, creating the benefit through the cattle. Would love to see beavers get reintroduced in that area. That would be my personal, that would just make me extremely excited. So we're kind of looking into that a little bit, but and then last thing I'll say, trying to develop a community-owned solar farm in San Diego as part of the first project to convert the company into a multi-stakeholder cooperative, kind of something like Mondragon and ecological destruction stakeholder, whereas Mondragon is mostly workaround. I imagine it as customers having ownership, suppliers, community members, every group having an equity stake.
Very cool. Well, I could see how you and Eck would connect on the solar side of things. So Jean, I believe you're the last one. Please share something exciting or a win that you've had in the last little bit.
Well, I just got engaged with a group of people, not a person, who are working in the Palouse, which is an area in eastern Washington and Idaho, and they want to transform 140,000 acres to regen ag. And they know enough that it's not going to happen over a weekend. So we have our work ahead of us.
Exciting. That sounds like a really exciting,
I think it's
big
exciting
project. Yeah, definitely. Well, we will get, now that we've kind of introduced what's exciting and what we're up to the last little bit, let's dive into events. And I'll kind of just remind us and just looking out calendars for, mastermind things. Next week is Regeneration Pollination. Regeneration Pollination is at 1 p.m. on my time, so Eastern, on Friday, which is it's a networking event for the regenerative world. And it's really actually the biggest one that I've seen out there. I don't think anybody else is doing networking events like Regeneration Pollination is for the regenerative network. So we would love to see you there. It really works well for those in Europe time zones and those in the American time zones. So in the Americas. So if you can make it, we'd love to have you. And then let's see what else. We do have something like a special kind of event coming up for our think tank discussion here on the beginning of the year on the 6th, January 6th. We're going to do a bit of a like a welcoming ourselves and kind of centering ourselves for the new year, and getting us kind of reset on our vision, our why we're doing the work that we're doing. And so we're going to have Anna Maria Aristizabal come and give us a masterclass during this think tank discussion. And then at the end of January, we're putting together. So Shaheen, you saw him hop in and hop off. He sent me a message really quick, and he's like, "Oh, I have too much background noise with my children right now. I'm gonna hop off." But he's gonna come. We're gonna have a couple other entrepreneurs that have secured funding. Shaheen is an angel investor that has helped regenerative projects fund what they're doing. He's helping us here in Panama right now with this bioregional hub that we're building here. And he can share some of his thoughts on funding. And then we also have a few other panelists that can come and chat with us. But in addition to that, we're looking for 2 to 3 people that would like to practice their pitch to an investor, or practice a pitch. And then we'll have the what do you call it? The panel kind of talk about your pitch and talk about pitches in general. So if you guys are interested in doing that, let me know and we will put you on the docket. We're going to try to do these like once a quarter or so. And then maybe if we get really good at this and we decide towards the end of the year, we could even do like a pitch event, right? And find some small money to wouldn't be huge money for the first pitch event, but something to show up for and actually be involved in. And that would be at the end of next year. So we're just trying to test this concept out. So those are a couple events coming up. Does anybody have anything else they'd like to share?
I don't have an event upcoming, but I do have the webinar that we ran last week. And so we've loaded the replay up into the Soil Learning Center. So if you wanted to go and check that out and share it around, it's pretty fun. I really enjoyed it. It was part of a land care group festival that was being run here in Melbourne. And I really enjoyed it because it gave me a deadline of like having to get my stuff sorted. And so without them scheduling that event in and kind of making me do it, it in hindsight was really, really fun and really good and got lots of positive feedback from it. So that's in replay mode now. It's not a live event, but feel free to go and sign up for a free account and watch the replay. So that's really cool. Yeah, we do have a screening of the webinar, the documentary To Which We Belong next week, but we're really struggling with like watch party software. And so I'm feeling like we're just going to abandon the whole watch party experience and say, here's the link, go watch the documentary on your own, because yeah, I'm really struggling. But I might bring that up as in challenges. If anyone knows any good watch party software that is stable with more than 4 people, that would be good. But anyway, that's the replay from last week. That was fun. And it's called The Power of Soil. And I genuinely believe that soil will save us.
Power of Soil or Parable of Soil? Power of Soil?
Power.
Power. Is that on Amazon?
May the power be with you.
Okay. Is that on Amazon? Because I actually saw that Amazon has like watch party
hang on.
setup.
Right. No. My webinar was called The Power of Soil. The documentary is called To Which We Belong.
To Which We Belong.
You can go watch the trailer here. Amazing movie, in my opinion. So much so that we bought the screening rights for it so we could play it and charge people to watch it. So, but we're not going to do that. We're going to distribute it for free.
Has anyone heard of Grow, the food revolution?
Yep.
I just started listening to it a couple of nights ago. Wow. That was on a plane of which the equal of to anything I've seen so far, if not beyond.
Yep. The To Which We Belong focuses more on the farmer journey and like what farmers are doing on the land, and not just people who get lots of money, but really grassroots movements and bringing families together. Some really good documentaries like Biggest Little Farm on Netflix, and people watch that and they fall in love with it, but they go, how do I get $2 million, $4 million to make a farm like that happen? So it's nice for them, but I could never do that. What I like about To Which We Belong, Nicole Masters is featured in it, and it's really a kind of grassroots stories of like, hey, we ran a farm, we fell out of love with it. We then went down the regenerative pathway, we're healing the land, it's brought the family back, and it's really wholesome. And I think it's more in reach with most, we call them Aussie battlers, people who are doing it tough. The Grow revolution and Need to Grow, again, really awesome, but founded off the back of Baskin Robbins ice cream franchise, lots of money, and I understand their story of like feeling guilty about how they put, what they did and what they're trying to do now. So I love what they're doing. And that was one of the first documentaries I kind of bought into their kind of impact pack. I was just like, I love this, and I'm buying everything that you've created. In fact, we bought it twice because I watched it and bought it. One of the other co-founders watched it and they bought it as well. And I was like, no, I already got that. We need to refund one of them. So yeah, I definitely love their impact pack as well, where you see all the bonus interviews and worksheets and documents. So that's really cool too.
I'm excited to see this. It's I was a little sad that you're not able to do the screening. I would like to workshop that if we can, just software, if anybody knows any watch party software.
I've never even heard of such a thing. I mean, I'm assuming it's within the rights. So instead of sharing within a living room, you could share it with a community and then pay for it per diem as if you would. I mean, it's kosher? I am just as long as it is. I mean, it's not
watch party software normally means to like watch the video at the same time while having like a chat going, and it's kind of like a Zoom. The problem with Zoom and sharing the screen is that it's very laggy, and not everyone, you might, so the whole point of a watch party is that everyone watches the movie at the same time.
Yeah.
And then at the end we can have a discussion about it.
Yeah, about a year ago, we did just such a thing. I'd never experienced it before. I never stopped to think about it. It's relatively short. And one of the filmers was an MC, and he was a local farmer here in Northern California. I could trace it down because I know John Connors. Anyone know John Connors? Probably Josh does.
Yep. Yeah, he's regular in the room. Yep. I can ping him.
Yeah. And it seemed to be seamless from within Zoom or whatever it was we were using. I'm pretty sure it was Zoom. And it seemed to work adequately, if I remember correctly, or maybe, pretty sure we saw a short film. It wasn't super long. Maybe it wasn't a film. It just seemed like it was a film.
You've had
maybe there's an excerpt, but
you've also had Need to Grow, haven't you? On your, or not Need to Grow, on your podcast. Who was one of your first podcast guys? They've done watch parties. I'm trying to think of their name.
Who are you talking to? Which podcast?
Talking to you. Your podcast, Ray. Your podcast, Ray. Like your first podcast episode.
Kiss the Ground?
You had Kiss the Ground, and they did a watch party with, I was on one of their watch parties before Kiss the Ground actually went on to, was it Netflix or Amazon? I can't remember where it went first. But I would chat with, what's his name, that you did your interview with, because they did a watch party with the service as well.
Yep. Okay. Yeah. Cool. I might reach out to that, and I've already just messaged John Connors as well, because I know him and we connected on Messenger, and so he's definitely a bag of tricks, that guy. So cool.
I've also sent you the fireflies.ai, which I used in the past, so maybe take a look at that.
Not to mention the NFT. I don't know if it was you, Ray, who had mentioned NFT, but John Connors did the co-sponsored what he claimed to have been the first NFT course last summer. I was on about a half of it, excluding, unfortunately, the mechanics of the step-by-step. And that was intriguing. Unfortunately, I did miss that, but I mean, it's probably available for reviewing, or maybe he could be a guest presenter. And
no, it's definitely a part of that. I was all here, Regen NFT, all across it. Thanks.
Yeah, I missed the opportunity. I was on a number of the calls, but missed the heart and soul of it. The Need to Grow. I'm not sure if I've seen that.
Oh, that's a good one too. So I think do you feel complete with that one, Ray? To kind of move into something else? That was kind of...
Totally. Didn't mean to hijack that, but awesome. Love it. Thank you.
Yeah, so challenges in your business. We're kind of in that stage now. and we'll take it all the way till 15 till for challenges. So please speak up, be a little vulnerable, share something that you're working through in your regenerative entrepreneurial business. It could be even an idea if you're at the idea stage, or it could be, I'm really working through a new product launch, or whatever it is. It can even be a personal, like managing yourself as an entrepreneur type of question. So go ahead.
I was introduced. Just one thing I would say is I was introduced today through what happened on, I guess it was Monday, where I met Cody. I think I've seen Cody before, but it was the first finance that the GRC organization that Dave Witzel and folks and friends have put on. And I met this fellow up in Canada. Actually, it was last Wednesday. And this guy's name is Jean-Marc Laflamme, I believe. And he in turn connected me with a guy at Stanford named, let's see, the same last name as the guy who wrote the population bomb at Stanford, 1968. Does that ring a bell? Sorry. But anyway, he started an organization about regen internationally, and I'm just kind of finding his name right now. And he sent me a message in real time. It's like, we need to talk. So Jean-Marc told me about this fellow, and his name is James Ehrlich. I think spelled the same way as the Paul Ehrlich. EHRLICH. And he started something amazing, which is gone. It's taking off like crazy. He's a lecturer at Stanford. And I think how he started is he created computer games in his youth, and he decided, he needed to do something different. He was a new dad, and he found it. He just had to change his entire lifestyle. And that was in like the early 2000s. And now he started something called Regen Villages Holding. And I'll stop so someone else can talk. Thought it was intriguing. Some of you guys might know about it. Let me share his link.
Yeah, please do.
Find it.
Cool. And as
So much
X shares that, please feel free to drop a challenge so that we can discuss it together.
I'd love to hear Dan's unplugging from the Matrix experience. Like, I thought that was really cool, because I know that's something that I struggle with as well, especially now I'm on Discords and Twitter Spaces and just my 400 tabs open. So kudos to you for like unplugging and going back to the emails, as much as that sounds crazy, like going back to emails when emails is still such a new thing. But I noticed you unmuted at the same time as I did, but if you had something to share as well, happy for you to do that. But love to hear a bit more about your Matrix unplugging.
Just for with Eck, I think if I pronounced it correctly, I do have a tie into Stanford as well. I built a house for somebody a number of years back for a nonprofit organization, the Magic organization, and he's actually a professor at Stanford, David Schrum. So you may want to connect with him. He owns three or four lots adjacent to each other in Palo Alto on the block, and they converted it to community open door type policy organization, and there are many rooms, and there's people that he houses that come through, and architects, and they work off the land, and they only bike to school and no cars, and they're really tied into the community, very well. So may be something that an eco-friendly village that you may want to check into, and they actually live what they preach. So he's been doing this for the last 35 years or so, with his family, and the way he raised his kids and all of his friends, and he's a pillar in that community that was just amazing to interact with, while I was building their house for about 3 years. So their houses. Yep.
What's his name?
David Schrum. I put it in the text, in our texting chat.
Right. Very cool.
Yeah. Okay.
David Schrum. Cool.
Let's see. I mean, my that other matrix thing is I suppose it's I don't know that it's the appropriate space to talk about it, but you know, I went through an entire year of, I was in the construction business before and building residential and commercial housing, and at some point about a year ago, I started waking in the morning and just writing things down about how to unify the world and humanity and things that I've never done before. It's a very strange. I'll call it an encounter, I guess. I don't even know how to refer to it. I was a normal person before that. I have a wife, family, kids. So there was nothing strange about me whatsoever. So I essentially started waking up every day, 2 in the morning on the clock without an alarm clock. And I would write many things down like I've never done before. And things would interrelate from years and years before as to what I need to do to unify humanity, you know, so you go figure, you know. And all of these projects, I slowly stopped working in construction. I paused essentially, and I started living off my savings for the entire year. And I launched a whole bunch of projects into the software world. I was essentially almost told what to do, I would suppose, by the higher spiritual entity that I was tied into. And I started actually acting on my thoughts by creating real projects that ran for a whole year, you know. And throughout that duration, I went through a whole bunch of, I don't even know, they're physical manifestations of my thoughts that are observable in the real world, where I actually I had enhanced abilities I play tennis, I'm a tennis player, so I'm a fairly good tennis player, but during this 2.5-month period when this thing was happening to me, I was a professional level tennis player, you know, so that was an indication to me that something beyond this world had happened. And it's, you know, we are so much more capable than we know. I mean, way beyond anything that I could describe to anybody that would believe me, right? They would say I need psychiatric help, but I know better. My friends, my family knew better. They were scared of what I was going through, because 3 or 4 times a day I would be emotional and I would cry for humanitarian type events or issues that I came across or things that I couldn't solve that were related to or suffering or things of that nature, which I've never done before, right? I was a mean person. I would curse. I would, you know, I was rough, right? But some transformation occurred, and it helped me resolve that aspect of my personality as well. So it's kind of an awakening that takes you to these. I created personal self-challenges and ethical methods that I would like humanity to interact with amongst all of us as a group. So if just as you know me today, I would be I would be exactly the same on the street, in your home, sitting at your table. There would be no reason why we couldn't all have dinner together. There would be no reason why we couldn't help financially each other. There would be no reason why we can't listen to each other. It's just a different way that humanity needs to interact. At the end of every single one of my writings, I would write down, everything needs to be done through kindness and love. I don't know why. I just unite humanity as one. And at the end, it can only be accomplished through kindness and love, right? So strangely, I came across several individuals and entities along the way, and I went through some spiritual awakening. And then, yeah, it's all about the Son and God and Christ. And, you know, I'm not a religious person that way, but essentially that's what I came to, the conclusion. And, you know, I'm for all religions, but they're all used for their own purpose currently, you know. And I just think that there's many things that we need to resolve. And there's the projects that I started there. Really, I'll just tell you one, just because I think it's significant, since you brought up the blockchain. So one of them was a cryptocurrency-based project, but influenced by Elon Musk and Warren Buffett and Jeff Bezos. And my thought was the following, and this came from the dream as well. We all have a financial net worth, and we all have a humanitarian net worth. Nobody in today's world ever talks about our humanitarian net worth on planet, right? Now that goes for individuals as well as companies. So my thought was, and I'm a simple person, but God gave me this gift and the ability to simplify papers and to read through them and reorganize everything and just summarize them in a nutshell, right? So it provides solutions. Somehow I can go through complex situations and provide solutions, right? So I looked at how we're organized today as societies, what the problems are in the world, and I thought there's so many NASDAQ trading platforms and investment platforms and financial firms, and I'm like, everybody, there's nothing that they talk about other than that silly ticker symbol, right? And every company has one. And I'm looking at them and I'm like, one of the things that we need to do is create a net worth, humanitarian net worth index. Go on the black web, turn off this existing web, add one additional column adjacent to the ticker symbol. That's called the Humanitarian Index. And this Humanitarian Index, it starts off at 0. You have Amazon, 0. Microsoft, 0. Netflix, 0. Now they see where they stand and how many of their profits they take and then reinvest back into humanity and into, into our planet, and you're not trading only the financial value of the company. Now you're starting to trade an actual index that's representative of what do you really do for this world other than create profits every quarter. So I'm all about transparent business and open book policies, and so it just I get crazy very fast. But the idea that moving forward, all companies should be held accountable, if not on their own merits, at least through the way the regular people like us and investors would look at that index and they would say, hey, 50 billion last quarter, they invested $100,000. That's not proportional to what they should be doing. And mind you, there's equations in artificial intelligence and quantum computing and things that today, if we use that technology appropriately, can calculate cradle to grave, beginning of life to end of life, a company's or an individual's necessary financial means to sustain their friends, their investments, their expenditures, their projects, special projects, everything, without keeping money in the bank and returning it back into society so that we can all benefit, right? And we can take this all the way down to the individual level, from the huge corporations down. I will have a financial index and I'm play my own little pool. You would have your own, and everybody would have their own, right? And then gradually you move up the ladder. And the best way to do it is to, since these folks love competition so much, they would inevitably challenge each other to who donates more, so they would want to see their name with their companies now all of a sudden start participating. And I thought originally doing the cryptocurrency, we created 12 coins, I'll call them coins, for humanitarian causes. And I interviewed many people and I asked, what are your basic needs as a human person, as a human individual on this planet? What could you not live without? So it starts with food, shelter, water, all the basics, right? Your investments, your health, your education, everybody has the same necessity. Clothing, there is no, after talking to a dozen people, everybody communicates the same needs, right? Once those are satisfied, people essentially stop competing against each other. And they start thinking and participating in things like GRC and permaculture. And now you have, all of a sudden, you have additional time to dedicate to these other ventures that normal people that I came across, and friends and family, they work 9 to 5, Monday through Friday. I just happen to be fortunate to dedicate a year to my own soul search, without working. But I know that normal people don't have time to do that. And we need to uplift each other, and we need to create venues for others to experience what some of us have the benefit to do. Sorry, that's it.
No, thank you,
No.
Daniel, for sharing.
100% the right space to share this, and I'm glad I didn't expect that to go there. I thought it was like uninstalling Facebook, to removing this app off your phone, and
Oh man, I did it. I uninstalled everything. A year ago, I didn't have anything. I didn't have any of the apps. I was just on email for my work. And then through the dream, it was told, take all the platforms. You will use all of them to unify humanity. And then as I asked, eventually I'd have which one should I choose? And I installed all of them. I signed up with accounts for all of them. And then I had LinkedIn from many, many years ago, 20 years ago, and I used to be in high tech, because I was in high tech. I'm an electrical engineer, I guess. I was the lead systems engineer on the F-22 aircraft. This is the part of me that's not crazy, right? so I did okay. I climbed the corporate ladder and worked on tunable lasers, optical, 10 gigabit transponders, and a whole bunch of startups. And gradually I got out of the corporate world and started my own company in construction. But once I started installing all these apps, and I chose LinkedIn, and they said, whatever you do is going to spread like wildfire. So I was navigating with God, and I'm like, there's nothing that can touch whatever I do, right? So whatever I do is going to be successful. But I started with an app for the blind shall see, for the iPhone, that creates a 3D rendering environment and guides the blind individuals to avoid obstacles. It's an obstacle collision avoidance system. And started working through LinkedIn and connecting, and started with 100 people. And before I knew it, I'm at over 5,000 people, interacting with many, many people and entities and companies. And just, it got so crazy that I was on 19 hours a day on every app, one feed after the other. And just, it got into many, many different topics of humanity, all humanitarian encounters and platforms and readings, and listening to Audible at 3x speed of every paper, that books, whatever. It just got super crazy, right? And I was overwhelmed to the point where I came to a crossroad where I had an opportunity to completely extract myself from what I refer to as the matrix, right? If you let it go to the level that I did at, right? Because I'm a junkie for information, and I recognize that. But at the same time, the reason I did it is to test my limits, essentially, and what is a human capable of. I was conscious that I was doing it. I knew at some point I would get out. I just didn't know the timing. But from the very beginning, I said, let me see how deep can a person go into this world of information without losing himself, right? Because I watch my kids, I watch my wife. When she originally got the phone, I used to be in bed with her. And we used to concentrate on each other, laugh with each other, talk to each other. Once the iPhone came into our life, 15 years, it gradually went to the point where I'm not, and it was the iPhone instead, and her friends and the books and the photos. And so I gradually started becoming less and less of an influence in her life. And, I adjusted, but I would complain that I'm going to sue Apple and Facebook and everybody because they're ruining my marriage, right? So I recognized it, I adjusted. I knew I knew something that I recognized instantaneously that's going to take our lives over and have profound changes, right? And it did. Now, as I adjusted, I was never content with it, but I stayed out of it, and I just watched her go into it. I watched my kids go into it. And I'm just like, wow, it's not a world that I wanted to be in, but when I let go for a whole year, I absorbed it all to the maximum extent and just utilize it to the maximum extent that I knew how. And if you're as crazy, and maybe I'm extra crazy special, but if you let yourself go in, there is no way out of it. There is, I have friends currently today that are on all the platforms, on Telegram, on all these other WeChat, on every single platform, and there's non-stop channels and streams and flow of information that they log into, and they flood me with the information. So mind you, I have 6 friends here, 8 you guys. Imagine the same thing every day times 1,000 different topics, because I considered humanity my friends, right? So my audience, I was looking for my 12 disciples originally, right? That's when the dream happened, right? And I found some of them, and that's a spiritual journey that's separate, but entire humanity was my friends. I couldn't reject anyone. I talked to anybody about whatever issue they had, whatever challenge they had, whatever project they had, whatever, so I selectively I got involved with whatever I thought was my spiritual awakening part of my path, right? So it was an interesting dive into the what's the new Facebook Meta, yeah, the meta world. And I do know that it's wrong. Even LinkedIn, the way my God, their algorithms are so perfected in terms of how to suck you in and hold you in, and your feeds, and it's just incredible where it's going. And I think it's the wrong way to control humanity, so we definitely have to put in the correct artificial intelligence humanitarian stops or values and ethics, so that if it's not too late, right? And quantum ethics, so that it does not overtake humanity, which it will if we let it, very, very, very fast. Now, in my extraction was a rebirth where I came face to face with God, and Jesus on the cross 3 times. There was a point where I had a low point in my life where I had considered taking my life. And Jane Kuva, she came into my life, and she's a singer. And there's this very specific quantum song that put things back into perspective for me as to where we are and where we're going. And I knew that it was a spiritual awakening and a path that her intervention essentially, continued my journey up until the last encounter, where it was about a month ago or so, again, where I was able to free myself from everything that happened and get back to my normal life, essentially, right, where I can start thinking about my job and my family, just the normal things, and not be online the 19 hours a day. And since I've been gradually returning back to normal, and I sense it, my tennis skills decreased to my normal level again. So I have a friend that he's moving here that I'm interacting with, and he's super gifted in terms of the permaculture. So more than likely, I'll introduce him to you guys when he relocates here to California in a couple of weeks. And then he would like to teach classes as well, and he's very knowledgeable, extremely knowledgeable, much more so than I am, and he's done this throughout his whole life as well. So he will be interacting with you probably as well, more so than I am. Me, I'm just an individual that's very small, that has grand ideas, but how these are going to manifest into reality is to be determined. There are some things that happen that there's a reason that we're all meeting to each other, I think. And I'm sorry to ramble on, but you guys asked me, so there's a reason, I think, why we all meet. It's nothing in my life has happened by chance. And I think these greater humanitarian things that we're working on, there are financial solutions. There are things that I got involved with that perhaps maybe I can help with. I don't know if that's why I was sent your way, right? There is some quantum financial things that we're involved with that maybe if you send me summaries, 2-page summaries of whatever your projects are, maybe somehow we can help financially. I mean, I'll submit them to them and see if they qualify for financial assistance, you know. So maybe that's my function here. I'm still trying to figure out what my function is in the world, right? Because I do feel I have a bigger function, but I don't know what it is yet, right? So I decided to temporarily, I went through a whole year of 19 hours a day craziness online. I got rid of, I tried to get rid of LinkedIn and delete it. They wouldn't let me. I did everything that I knew how to do, call their tech support, but they will not let me delete my profile essentially, and my interaction with them for the past year. So the other one's Facebook, I tried, they didn't. The other one, Instagram, I tried. So for whatever reason, I'm being dangled. It's like, you know, so I just deleted them off my iPhone so I don't interact with them consciously, right? Just like, but over the past month, I realized that it was me not being able to control myself. But over the past month, now I feel I can go back into LinkedIn and type in, interact with 2 or 3 friends, and then just extract myself. So now I have the ability to do that. I did not before, right? Because I was on a spiritual quest. How do I meet God again and attain those same levels of flow that I had during the first 2.5 months, where I could, what happened is all of my senses, touch, smell, hearing, sound, all of everything was so synchronized and in tune that spherical ball, that tennis ball, I could do anything I wanted to do with it. I understood the geometry behind it, the velocities, to an extent that I've never ever thought was possible, right? But once it happened to me, I knew that there was something wrong with me. in other words, that we have these other abilities that we can tap into. And I was searching for an entire year as to how do I get back to doing that on a day-to-day basis through control, through controlling your mind, right? Because to me, it just happened. I don't know how it happened, but it happened, right? So I was hoping that there is a methodical way of doing it. I got connected with the Flow Research Collective. I got connected with a whole bunch of other that were not spiritually inclined or more mechanically,
Daniel, have you heard of
yes.
like a Kundalini experience? Because what you're describing to me is like that type of Kundalini experience, and sometimes you don't realize that you've had a very a very deep spiritual. You can probably describe it in another way of like a very deep personal spiritual experience, right? And people experience them in various different ways, right? And sometimes you don't know that you've gone through one, and it can be overwhelming, right? And then some people try to get back to that, and it can be a very hard.
Well, okay, I have not.
Hard understanding.
But for me, it wasn't. It was never over. It wasn't overwhelming to that extent. It was self-overwhelming. I was doing it consciously. So for me, after a period of 1 month, 2.5 months, when I was going, it came to a comment. The climax of the whole story was that I was Jesus on the cross with my hands spread out. I was looking down onto the crowd, and I felt the horror, the shame, the humiliation. It was one of those moments where I was transposed out of my body into the cross, and I was just looking down onto humanity and couldn't believe what they were capable of doing, right? So that was my initial experience. And the following day was tied to the sun, and the sun is essentially the source of all light and energy waves, right? So that was the ultimate God that was presented to me and I tied to. And then the latter, the rebirth, which happened on 11/21/21, is when again it was a rebirth in my, and I was taking a bath, and it was in the tub, and essentially all the events throughout my life presented themselves to me in a very fast, you did this correct, you did this correct, you did this correct, you did this, and it was like event after event of all the things that I've done that I was questioning, and they were all correct. And it was okay. It came to a culmination, and it was a rebirth of sorts, right? So I was able to, at that point, extract myself out of the matrix that I was involved in and with during this entire year. So that was the, you know, when I realized that it's much easier now to deal with the online world, right? Having learned everything that I learned over the past year, you know, and then the projects that I started just temporarily I put on hold because of the financial get under control again, right? Because my savings are somewhat expired, you know, so I have to start making some real income again to support my bad habits. So yeah, and my ideas, my crazy idea.
Hate to say goodbye. I love this discussion. See you next time.
All right, take care. Yeah. Yeah, so that I don't want to, sorry, I you know, you guys asked me, but that's the extent of my experience. So hopefully this will help permaculture somehow. I'm not sure how, but yeah.
Oh, this is a space for regen. So it's all about regenerating the soul, the mindset, the communities, the people.
Yeah.
So what you've shared is spot on. And yeah, you know, like I've been very fascinated, and I agree that we meet and interact with people on purpose. And there's a reason why you shared the matrix, a reason why I asked the question, a reason why we all sat here and nodded our heads as you were talking. So
Yeah.
I just want to say thank you for sharing
problem.
that so openly and honestly.
Yeah. Sounds good.
I'm just sharing this article on Kundalini Experiences just off of, I was just looking to see if there was anything that you hadn't heard of that's understanding.
Yeah, I'm tied to,
just on Gaia.
I'm tied to Greg Brandon. I'm tied to Greg, and also to somehow to this whole Gaia world as well. So, yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, here's
all of these things came across. There's many things. It's just crazy. It's been a crazy journey, but it's all real. Yeah.
And I went on a journey just I think when Ray and I met recently, the first time that we kind of met, I was going through a pretty extensive study of just energy and really trying to understand myself through my emotions and thoughts and the energy patterns and vibrations, and just trying to go through that, and really started to understand some life experiences, you know, very spiritual experiences that I've had in my life, that were very strong and had carried a lot of emotion with it, and some different type of energy, and I think if we don't explore and don't take those signs and warnings, there's definitely reasons why you're receiving these promptings to do something, and if you don't take those opportunities to go through and experience these, you'll never really truly understand significant parts of your life, right? And a lot of people do this in their lives. It's almost as if they fall asleep and they never wake up because they decide that they are going to ignore these experiences in their lives continuously, and then they just don't really understand, you know, like when something really is speaking to them and it's a higher power coming from somewhere, and they just say nope, they just shut off any thought, any experience in that manner, any spiritual experience in their life. It can be very debilitating to their ability to create in the world and to reach their highest potential, right? So I give you deep respect as you go through this journey, Daniel.
I also appreciate, I wasn't expecting this conversation today, but
You guys asked, remember that. I didn't volunteer.
I appreciate it because and here's why. Well, I hope it felt safe. I hope you felt safe. I mean, we're not all in the room together, so you're not feeling the vibe, but just by looking at, I mean, a couple, whatever. But in the work that I mostly do in the conservation arena, I'm in the regen space at the odd chance maybe that something magical will just happen on my farm without any work. So if you can vibe me something, that'd be great. But no, there's this, I feel this longing to talk about spirituality in spaces, but there's still this like wall, like, the resistance up there, but I'm starting to slowly break into that. And to be honest, Jo, who I mentioned earlier, I'm partnering with, she has more of a Hindu Buddhism background. And I think she's gonna bring that sensate to the work, but there is a longing for it. And when we can have these conversations without judgment, that's when the creativity comes. That's when what you're talking about happens in a group, is when you can just let that go down. Like several times you talked about, well, I'm crazy or not normal, and now I'm back to normal and blah, blah, whatever, like you're taking all these judgments from our culture. And the truth is, when we can just all be okay with what your experience is, because it's nothing against me, right? It doesn't hurt me that your experience was yours.
It scares most people though, right? Because it's not a normal thing to happen, right? So it does.
But I think there's a longing. I think there's a recognition that more of that is happening, and we're not knowing how to talk about it, and yet that's where the creativity lies.
Yeah, well, next year, 2022, if you guys want to go, I mean, if you want to truly understand, there's some amazing things coming our way. And Resonance Foundation, right, with Nassim, it's just, there are many great things happening that are going to awaken most of us, I think. And it's all cosmologically related, and it's not just me and what I'm going through. So my awakening path is perhaps earlier, or there's others more advanced than I am. There's other lagging behind, but gradually, in the totality of humanity, there are cosmological events, planetary events that are actually causing our awakening as a race, not just as an individual. And we all need to collectively raise our vibration levels and to such a point where we can ascend to the higher realms, right? And it is happening. And I noticed that more and more with more people I interact with, and somehow we attract these type of people. I don't know, once you start diving into that quantum realm, I think somehow we're attracted to each other. I don't know how it happens, but I think about it, and some things I think about it. The next time it's like it happened, or somebody else is doing it, and I connect with that person, I'm just like, what? And they have the same thoughts that I do, and it's like, wow, it's so nice not to be alone. It's just, and the goal is to marry the divine and the science, right? And that is the way, as opposed to separating church and state. We got to reunify it. And how we teach that to all of the politicians remains to be determined. But as you can see, events like dominoes, they're coming down one by one. They're all being exposed. I don't think everybody understands, but Judgment Day is here. And it's happening, whether they want to or not. It's actually happening. So, and I went through my own personal Judgment Day. I resolved all of my past, so to speak, and I'm so glad, because I feel like I'm not carrying that weight on my back, that backpack or anything. I feel like whatever comes my way, I'll deal with it. I'm not stressed any longer. I don't scream anymore. It's just like, I don't have any money right now, but I'll make it. I didn't have a job, but I got a job. It's like everything will just align. Don't worry about it. So I feel like I'm one of these surfers in Santa Cruz that smokes a little weed, and I'll be just fine. You know, and I can sit there and talk to them and just, I have friends that are surfers that do that. And I just like, I have a day like this with them, and then I go back in my own world, and everybody can coexist despite their differences, you know, but how do we teach that in a faster method, right? So that was my quest. I need a, and my, my thought was that our DNA will be corrected. Essentially, it requires a correction due to the generations of mistrust and generations of issues that control that we have been subjected to, right, by those in power, right? So, you know, as we're going through the awakening, I think we're all going to be much better off for sure in the years to come, you know. So you'll see many. We'll have a couple more things to overcome, but it should be a much better world going forward, I think. I'm sure going to behave that way, irrespective of what others do around me, you know. So, and I think it starts with each one of us, and somehow that energy just is contagious, you know, like the coronavirus, right? And it just carries from one to another. And if we all behave this way, we wouldn't be judging each other. We wouldn't be questioning each other's intents. We wouldn't be just like, I know that you have your best intents at heart towards me. And it all starts from the heart, right? It's all pure love. And once you have that for every human around you, all the issues are gone. All the competition is gone. We just get into the resolve mode, you know? Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah. And one of the platforms that we developed is to raise funds for anyone. Again, any person can have a humanitarian network, and it's very much like LinkedIn, and you do likes and shares and that, but the supply and demand and economical terms are equated so that people upload their needs for food, their needs for a project, for funding, for whatever, and then there's those that will participate and fund it. And you do it through cryptocurrency, you do it through PayPal, we created accounts worldwide to be able to interact across countries, for fundraising, you know, so that the idea was that anyone can help anyone. And if you have just one poor person that has an iPhone and he happens to be in Uganda or somewhere, and he can upload photos of his shelter requirements or food requirements or whatever, and he's there, and then you have somebody else that has excess food, they can just immediately transfer funds through cryptocurrency to them, or point them to the right direction to send food to them immediately, or, you know, just help each other to that level of interaction, you know, where you don't have to be a huge corporation and have all of your credentials in place and your tax documents. And the process was so convoluted to transfer $10 from US to India. And the amount of papers and governmental approvals that we needed to get and everything, it's just insane that the world has to have these type of borders, you know, and cryptocurrency is eliminating these, you know. That's another one of these, I think, new technologies that will create equality and equity in the world, you know, that I came across anyway. So yeah, this platform, again, you know, we were very close to launching it, but I temporarily put it on hold until I get my finances back in line, you know. And I haven't submitted to the quantum world either, the projects yet, just because over the past month, I've been just trying to regain my normal consciousness. So get back to being normal, you know. I started playing tennis again. I started going outdoors again. I started, you know, I wasn't doing that for the whole year like I used to, you know. So I'm trying to get back to normal, and then hopefully this will lead to bigger things. It was I do want to, I did get involved with or connected with architects that are building these crazy communities that are centered around humanity and being in tune with the earth, essentially, as opposed to living in this physical world where we just deplete the resources of the earth, and we constantly fight for domination. You know, even the USA as a world power, right, constantly taking advantage of all the other countries for our own benefit is wrong. You know, so there's many things that we have to resolve, right? But I think they will be. I think what's been happening in the background and where we're going, I think it's going to be a nice, I look forward to 2022 for sure, knowing what I came across, you know, so it gave me confidence and a reason to go on, you know, because I didn't want to go on. I didn't want to be part of this world any longer. It was just that terrible to me to know that I go to a restaurant and I have food on the table and there's, you know, millions of people without food on the table. It doesn't make sense. And my daughter just recently, 17 years old, she just got a job at a nice high-end restaurant in Los Gatos where we are. And at the end of the day, they just throw tons and tons and tons of food away. I'm just like, I feel guilt. I say, why? And so she came up with an app, an idea for an app to somehow through an Uber system, through whatever, collect the food at the end of the shift and then distribute it to other places and then try and figure out a way to ship it to those that need it to. There's so many things that people are working on and that people can do to help each other, that through technology, strangely, right? So I'm like, okay, I know at some point I'm going to be going back into the metal world, but I'll be going on my own terms where I use the technology as opposed to it using me, right? So that was the whole idea, is to not let it take over your existence, right? Where you can actually control yourself. And that was my spiritual awakening, right? Is control myself to the extent that no AI or quantum AI can take advantage of my abilities. We control it instead, right? So that was the awakening for me. That was my experience. Yeah, so I sure hope I can come up with whatever the next steps are for me here as we move forward, you know, but it's gonna
So Daniel,
have to be between
Daniel,
another world, you know.
We have 12 minutes left today together. And what we do at the very end of our discussions is we share what we're taking away from this week. So if you want, if you could, Daniel, just share with us, and then we kind of do popcorn style, how we kind of started off today. Share with us what you're taking away from our conversation today and what you brought to the table. And then we would love to have you back and have you join us again. I think you're in the right room. You're in the right place. We're all working towards the same things that you're discussing. Help for our ourselves and for our planets and for our future and generations, both past and present and future, right? And being able to move those things forward. So thank you for joining us. But if you can, just share briefly what you're taking away and what's what you're taking away this week and what you're going to use. How are you going to use it?
Yeah, no, I just want to. I guess I just want to thank Regen and Michelle for, I guess, welcoming my story. You know, because I often think that I should not share it with anyone because I don't want it to reflect on my personality and your perception of me and interaction with me, right? So I'm struggling with that decision as I go forward and interact with more people. I haven't, you know, what I share with you, I haven't shared with many, maybe like a dozen people or so, you know, so far. So I'm just thankful that I guess I recognize that I will be sharing it less and less, but who knows? If I have a choice, I'll go into the spiritual healing world and work that venue and helping others if I can, because I think that's where my attributes are and that's where my personality is. But I never had the education, I guess, in the certificates and whatever is required, but I do know that from a humanitarian perspective, I can heal others just through my common sense, you know, not many, I don't know, there's just something that I guess I possess that I can communicate to others and help them heal from their, I went through many challenges in my life, and I think all those lessons can be used to help others. So from a permaculture perspective, you know, I appreciate everything that you guys are working on, and anytime I hear acres, that's a dear term to my heart, you know, open land and acres. And I grew up with, you know, some connections to the Native American world, and living in tune with the land is what we should all be doing, right? So I do live in open space country here. I live in the mountains. We have 3 acres, you know, and we're away from the concrete city. And we have chickens and ducks and birds and fish, and I'm just thankful every time I come home. You know, I unplug essentially. As soon as I go through the gates, you know, you just kind of spiritually, I feel like the land and everything just coming in tune with my existence, and all my worries are gone through and challenges that happen outside those gates when I go in into the real workforce land, you know, which is just crazy, you know. I know I could not live. I drive through San Francisco and I just get stressed out by the one-way signs and the concrete and sidewalks and people, and it's just I could not live that way. I'm not sure how we're going to balance the high density population and living in these high rises and things, which they're doing today, with, you know, the metropolis, with this open land concept, which I think everybody should be going towards, you know. So I think that's something that, you know, I don't know that these mega cities will ever go obsolete, or we're truly going in that direction, and all of these open spaces are lost, you know. I don't know which, I know my heart wants to be in the nature world, but hopefully your efforts will keep us going in that direction, right? And if not, at minimum, preserve all of these vast acres of lands, and as humanity awakens, perhaps allow them to gradually be pulled back offline like I was, and reintegrate with earth and everything that it has to offer, right? And nature, right? You know, I've had the opportunity to rehab several troubled teens as well through nature, you know. So there's a group, that an ex-Marine who also is into nature and hiking and everything, and he introduces, from the juvenile system, we take 1 or 2 kids with us in a group of normal kids, 30 kids or so, and for a period of 2 weeks off grid, and they interact, and then before you know it, we do that 3 or 4 times throughout the year with them. The troubled teens essentially start believing in themselves, and they start being reintroduced into the system, and they start going to school, and they start, you know, some of them apply for the Navy, so it's crazy what nature can do, you know. It's just crazy how nature can heal, and I've had the opportunity to actually witness it firsthand, you know. It gives me all kinds of good hope, right? That nature is the right way to go. So that's my take off of your permaculture efforts that you're doing. So yeah.
Well, thank you, Daniel.
Michelle, I guess. Yeah.
I just, again, I appreciate the story, and I'm taking away that I should not fear diving into spirituality in conservation, and just see what happens. Thank you. I'll pass it to Russell.
Okay. It's funny. Yeah, like 8 years ago, I was living in Barcelona. I'd lived there for 12 years. And then I, you know, traveled the world for 2-3 years with my family. And now I've been living in Colombia off grid for 6 years. And I live with the, you know, indigenous neighbors, the Kogi, who
My
are
wife's from
very
Colombia,
spiritual
from
people.
Tolima. My
Yeah.
wife is from Colombia, from Tolima, so I don't know how close that is. Yeah, that's cool.
I don't know where Tolima is either. It's a big country.
Yeah.
But the coming from a Western culture to now understanding a little bit about how an indigenous culture such as the Kogi, kind of the way they think, the way that their belief system is, it's very enlightening. There's one criticism I might have of permaculture. I'm just applying to be a permaculture research institute teacher, and it categorically states in their information, you cannot teach spirituality, right, under the guise of permaculture. They're totally anti, and I understand why. And at the same time, I see it as a something that should be at least openly talked about, right? But there you go. That's the way people are sometimes. And thank you for sharing, Daniel. And it was nice to get to know you, and privileged to hear your story. So that's what I take away today. I'll pass it on to Ray.
Awesome, thank you. Very great shares. Thank you so much for everything. And key takeaways is that just open the question and open the heart and see where the conversation goes. There isn't that agenda, and I agree with what's been said as well, that spirituality needs to be a lot more accepted to be spoken about. We are completely becoming disconnected. Josh is pointing out something in the flower, the permaculture flower. It's a bit small to see what it says, I think allowing to talk about spirituality and connectivity is definitely something we need to do more of. So
this is for Josh. I just put it in go to jane108academy.com, and that essentially gives you all the mathematics behind nature that you'll ever want to know. He's been working on it for 40 years, and it's got the flower of life and all the geometry behind every single all the number sequences, everything as he understood over the past 40 years. And he's a channeler as well, and it's all related to Earth. So this will be beneficial to all of you here.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, that's so interesting, Grisel. And sorry, Ray, I kind of cut you off there and distracted you. But I was pointing out on the permaculture flower at the very bottom, it says health and spiritual well-being. So I think it's really fascinating that you ran into that. And I see that more on the Bill Mollison side of what he kind of brought in, and in his writings, you can kind of sense it was more the science and not the science discipline and not the spiritual discipline. And then you kind of see more in David Holmgren is being able to interconnect all of those pieces, because it's such a division that we're losing our spiritual. It's another half of our being, is our spiritual part of ourselves, and we're so logical, and we're so that's what I'm taking away. And this, I'm very, very much taking the same thing away, Michelle, that you have, as well as I still, I'm a very religious person, if you guys know me, and as you guys get to know me more, I share more, and it's hard to be vulnerable in sharing. And so you have to be comfortable with the room that you're in, the people that you're talking to be able to share deeply, because you'll block yourself off if you, I'm like a big fan of Brené Brown, and she mentions that too. And the research behind, shame, right? You'll block yourself off in being able to share with the world your piece if you're not in a safe, comfortable place to share. And I just wanted to mention that, Daniel, if you ever feel like, you're mentioning that, here's the crazy part of me, here's the non-crazy part of me, right? We're all crazy. Let's be honest. We all have craziness to us. We all have whatever it is to us, right? And in reality, it is who we all have, a pain body. There's so many different ways that you can describe it. We have challenges, we have insecurities, all of these different pieces to us, and we have to understand the whole solution. And to see the permaculture world, I think, have a part of the permaculture world, I guess you could say, because I don't believe it's all of us, especially in this room right here, to take away a certain piece of that holistic view by not including spirituality. It's really, it's saddening, right? And it's blocking us off from seeing the whole picture. That's what I'm taking away, and I'm moving forward with it. So thank you so much for your story today, Daniel. It was very helpful. So we are at time. Thank you guys so much. I was so tired today, and I was just thinking, I really don't know if I can just maintain a room. And I was thankful that Ray was able to be here again, and everybody showing up consistently. Russell, you've been amazing too, to be able to show up and be here. And Michelle, I know sometimes you're not here all the time, but you're consistent, right? As much as you are, and it's good to just be able to have this space be held by such wonderful people. So thanks again. Have a wonderful evening, and we'll see you guys next week.